We're live. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah ta'ala wa barakatuh. Bilal Alihi on Islamic Action TV. Gorilla Minded Productions.
That's correct. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa ta'ala wa barakatuh with me, Mohammed Solomon, on Islamic Action TV. Gorilla Minded Productions.
Indeed.
So we're chopping up today, Aki.
We're chopping up
What we're going to serve.
the perspective, the analysis of not Black Lives Matter, but the wider perspective. So you know, Beyonce recently did this
controversy.
little dance, yeah, the Afro
formation.
thing, little formation, maybe an X alluding to Malik El-Shabazz, Malcolm X.
Yes,
and
the man.
The Black Power salute. She didn't really say much, but
No.
she said a lot, I guess.
Wasn't dressed much either.
No, I wasn't wearing much either. But it's like a kind of rhetoric in a dance, and she made a massive statement without actually articulating, verbalizing. It was a big statement. It caused the mainstream were unable to ignore.
The foundations.
You got the foundations, but it kind of ties to this important documentary because there's been much argumentation and much conversation around the Black Lives Matter. People are starting hashtag White Lives Matter. You know, taking things out of context. The context of, for example, the Black Panther Party. Black Panther Party for self-defense. So they were in Oakland. They were there trying to react to and challenge police brutality. You know, deaths in custody or just police. Not even the people weren't even in custody at the time. Some people were just killed in the street.
Yeah, they
shot
were.
like dogs.
So
that was a context in which the Black Panther Party came to rise. Obviously, the Black Lives Movement or protest movement has come to rise, and some people, as I said, they've created things like hashtag, White Lives Matter,
all lives
and all lives matter, as if to say that that's suggesting the inferences that only Black Lives Matter. It's just stupid. He's talking about a disproportionate, a minority group in America, industrialized removing or culling of black male, of incarceration rates in America, or the deaths. And I know that O'Reilly would say, but what about doing to your own people, like in the black community? And you're talking about
coon train is coming. Black cry.
You know, this kind of decode. He starts talking about. So you're talking about the deaths by police, who are supposed to be upholding the law, and then you're going to equate that with, but there's deaths in the community. Well, there's criminals in the black community. So obviously you can't compare a criminal class with the police. Or if you're telling me something different, or you start talking about children born out of wedlock and stuff like that. But O'Reilly is. what he is. So he's made a straw.
Yeah.
But this salute documentary was interesting because obviously you see the two brothers on the stand with the black power.
Tommy Smith and John Carlos
donning the Black Power salute.
Yeah.
But there's a white brother there in solidarity with them, repping the working class and unity.
Peter Norman.
Exactly. What about Peter Norman's story?
Exactly.
We already heard about him, but
no.
What's the breakdown about what he went through?
Well, that's very interesting because I think, can I just jump back a bit on your points there? Because Peter Norman is very important in that the fact, this is a white, hold up to the camera, this is a white brother who stood in solidarity with the two black brothers who was protesting against the racism in America. At the time in America, the 60s, the Vietnam War, and a lot of black soldiers were being sent to that war. A lot of urban, poor people, white and black, and being slaughtered in that war, which was what we know was the war of aggression against a sovereign nation. But he wanted to identify with the struggle of people because of being a strongly religious Christian. He understood the values of freedom, justice and equality for all humanity, and he stood with them. He stood with them and he suffered what they suffered. They lost all of their sponsorship. When they went back home, they were vilified. They weren't allowed to get any jobs. Some of them, their parents, their family members committed suicide. One person's mother committed suicide because of it. They were castigated. They went through absolute hell. And when he went back to Australia, he was called a nigger lover, an abo lover. And he was the fastest runner in Australian history. And he was stripped of his ability to represent his country simply because he stood with people fighting for justice. And he stood against injustice, because he understood how the Australians were treating the Aborigines as well. So what we're saying is that, you see, we have to always get into to put a certain criteria to bed, yeah? Some of you black nationalists, some of you brainwashed, dumb-minded black nationalists, always trying to say Islam is some slave religion that we as black brothers who are Muslim are following some pale Arab religion. You are a lunatic. Nobody, I love you, you're my brother. But you're as batty as a box of frogs. Because nobody, that does not do history. Right? This brother, this white brother, he's my brother. Why is he my brother? Because he stood up for what was right. His skin colour is irrelevant to that. It's justice. We all got white bones underneath our skin. What are you going to say to that? The point is, he stood up for something he saw was wrong. So you people out there saying, oh, Islam is this is Islam religion, come off with that foolishness. Because we know that Islam is a way of life. It is intrinsic to the African experience as the ether system, as the spiritual system. Spirituality is part of the deen, because it's a deen, it's not a religion, right? So when we see injustice, like Black Lives Matter, why do you think that we can inject, Malcolm said, we can inject ourselves as Muslims in the human rights struggle? Because Islam came about fighting for human justice. Our Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, one of the most amazing and most brilliant
remarkable human
ever lived. Yes? He fought for injustice. And he had people of all races and nationalities around him. Our holy imams, the descendants of this great man, who is alive, even one of them is alive to this day, to make sure injustice is destroyed in the earth. Right? He's here amongst us. Right?
And one, I just want to jump in there because you spoke about the Imam of the age, alayhi salam, and one academic has put out a very strong piece of research, as you know, the eminent sister Amina In-Laws, and she speaks about from her research using classical work as the Imam of the age. This Imam is 98%
African.
I'm not even 98% African.
Even I'm not African. That's not racial boasting.
And but what does that mean? He doesn't come to represent any nationality. He comes to represent a principle. So as long as people get their mind around that, then it can work. But some people, there are even some Muslims who can't see him as the African that he is, or of that answer, because in their mind, for them to follow him, they have to make him other than that because they've got such a low estimation.
And look at this brother here, yes?
Low estimation.
He didn't think about the colour of the brothers.
Right.
He stood
for principle.
So there are brothers and sisters who don't care about the colour of the Imam, but those who do care about him, we know what your real agenda is. When we see what's happening with Beyonce, we understand what she's saying. She's saying, without saying it, that this country that she's in does not respect life, particularly black life. This country has what is called the Supreme Court of Justice. But how can you have justice on stolen land? How can you annihilate the indigenous people, supplant yourself over there, and then create so-called chambers of justice and law, and enslave the people you brought over for 400 years to create the wealth and make your country great? And then even now, you marginalize them. You keep them out of the best jobs, in the worst food, in the worst ghettos. You create ghettos where they slaughter each other like rats in the barrel. And then when they protest or they show humanity against it, you condemn them. While you break the wing of the bird and condemn the bird while it can't fly. This is a sickness within certain societies. So Beyonce did a good thing. She highlighted a problem where black men are being slaughtered. Black manhood is cheap. It's at a premium. And Islam is right at the heart of it. You have to stop cooling out and trying to say Islam. We're not coons in Islam. Right? Maybe some reverts are coons.
Yeah, that's a different story.
But we ain't here. We'll take you on whatever you're talking about, because you can't separate us from this struggle. You can't use what the Turks did to separate us. You can't use what some of the Persians did to separate us. You can't use what these pale mixed Arabs did to separate us. You're not going to work on us, because you know you love Malcolm X. And you know Malcolm and Khalid Muhammad and Farrakhan and people like this. But even though they're religious position, you know that they're there for the black man and black woman. You know they're there for justice. Farrakhan says, someone asked him, will there be white people can judge the nation of Islam in the future? Farrakhan said yes. There will come a time when even white people, because the message of Islam is for the whole human family. And that's Minister Farrakhan.
That's right. So what we're saying is, this might be new to some of you to hear Muslims speaking about issue with
the black community,
in the context of the black struggle.
Black lives matter.
But even the black struggle, if you really look at it on a fundamental level, it goes towards being a human struggle.
Exactly. It's a macrocosm of the
this Australian hero is there. Is like evidence. He's a hero, and that's evidence, because that's the one that was forgotten. But again, even the Black Panther Party, for self-defense and trying to educate African Americans, self-pride, self-belief, self-worth, and self-determination. But also, it was on a class level. And saying that there must be housing and employment and training and food fit for human consumption and things of this nature. So it was saying that for all. So that's why you ended up with that Brown Panther Party. You had different types.
The White Panther Party. There was a white group of those, because some white students came to him and said to Hugh, how come we join? He goes, well, you can't join us because if you join us, you will mute our struggle.
Yeah.
What you need to go to your white community, set up the same principles that you have that we have, and go to your people because you can reach them better than us. Yeah, and then help them to work alongside us. Yeah, to empower the urban poor. So the panels were meeting hillbillies from Tennessee, from the really poor areas in the south. They were meeting people of that nature, and what they were doing, they was uniting with them. And they were showing them that the struggle is won. Because capitalism is what was destroying everybody. Corporatism is what destroyed everybody. That's why America has a president. It's a CEO. You have a president. Exactly. It's a business. That's why Trump is exposing the game. Trump is saying, look, America's a business. It's a corporate entity.
I'm a businessman. I can run this business.
Exactly. Britain, if you look at Britain in the company's house, it says United Kingdom PLC. Houses of Parliament PLC. The House of Windsor PLC.
Registered business.
The registered businesses. They're all registered business. It's a business. It's a con. The Prime Minister ain't elected. He's selected. The President is selected. It's between the devil and the deep blue sea. So we can see that when Beyonce rocked the boat simply by highlighting what was being done. Was she showing, when she said hands up, don't shoot, did she make that up? That's because that's what's happening.
Oh, but what about the young lady, I can't remember the station, but she's a young conservative. She was saying, and Beyonce needs to talk about her husband because he used to be a drug dealer. What kind of decoy?
And the Panthers are like the Klan.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
There's nothing on record to say that the Panthers ever initiated violence against anybody based on their skin colour, or in fact initiated violence. It wasn't Black Panther Party for self-defence. There's no evidence of them lynching anybody, castrating anybody, burning, tar and feathering anybody.
I don't remember that. No.
Putting in any.
I don't remember anybody like two horses. Because this t-shirt's this t-shirt's quite profound. I don't know if people have picked up on this.
The camera can
zoom in on that, but it's quite.
It's a form of protest.
It's a form of protest. It's a bit like Beyonce, isn't it?
Right.
It's a silent form of protest. Subtle. But can you break the history down quickly on that, brother?
No, well, basically Levi jeans, Levi, European Jews, possibly, I don't know if Zionists, we need to do the research, but what we know is that to demonstrate how strong the jeans was, they would say that, it couldn't be torn apart by two horses.
In opposite directions.
In opposite direction. But we know that the history book teaches us that at the time of the transatlantic slave trade, it would have been an African man in those jeans.
Yeah, movie hand
and it would have been one of our ancestors being ripped from limb to limb.
So you're telling me, bro, what you're trying to say is that in order to torture a black man, to destroy black masculinity, and to let other black women who are pregnant observe this so they could transfer the fear of the slave master right into the very embryo
of the epigenetics. Epigenetics translate into the genes.
Right? They would tie one black man's his leg,
horse to one black man. The black man, one leg. Tied to one leg.
To his right leg and his left leg, and then it would whip the horse and also go in opposite directions, thus tearing that man apart, splitting him, everything out. And that fear, that horror will go directly into the pregnant woman that was on the plantation and go right into the child that was even before it's born. So the child will be born with the fear of the white master. He would be a coon even before it came out.
Essentially.
So this is the Willie Lynch syndrome in effect.
Yep.
Do you feel that's had some impact now? In terms of what's happening to us now as a people and the whole Black Lives Matter and how Beyonce couldn't really say what she had to say, but to do it in a certain sort of way?
Well, definitely. I mean, you got the works of Joy DeGruy who talks about post-traumatic slave syndrome. So she's put forward a certain work and she talks about this transgenerational trauma by way of, well, then she uses the term, she doesn't use the term epigenetics, but we know she's alluding to that, where the traumatic behavioural patterns and traits are passed from generation to generation. From generation to generation. You got Francis Fanon, Black Skin, White Mask, Wretched of the Earth. He talks about the psychology of this colonialized mindset of Africans throughout the diaspora. You got Naeem Akbar, you got Wade Nobles, you got the great and the eminent Francis Chris Wilson, and also my dude who led me and inspired me to go and study psychology, mainly Naeem Akbar and Amos Wilson.
Anthony Broder.
You know what I'm saying? Champions in terms of understanding
the
black mind
damage
and
of the black mind
damage that took place. You might not find this from this type of information in the literature of the Shuyukh, but I'm arguing that it's not part of the classical Islamic studies, but for example, any African descendant that was thinking about going to a madrasa, at least if they were from the diaspora and they're going to study and go to Najaf and Qom and these places to study classical Islamic studies, I think if they're to be a service to their people, there's no way that you cannot read and understand and comprehend.
This is what I think is fantastic. Maybe we could touch on this.
Of Francis Cresswellson and the works.
Because the problem is a lot of our people go into those things and come out coonized, pasteurized, sterilized coons.
Yeah.
So they come out agents of the countries they go to. So if they travel abroad to learn Islam in another country,
they learn Islam as well. Yeah.
So instead of them learning about, you said, about the great nobles and the eminence and the heliographers of our community, like you Francis Cresswellsons and people of this nature, they're learning about other people, so they just come back as stool pigeons and they come back as agents. And this probably can explain why in England, for the past, since the 90s or since the 80s,
I didn't want to say
credible.
I didn't want to say that,
brother. I want you to say it.
But we have to. We're saying what we're saying is that we're not speaking right now in 2016, but we're talking to 2040 and 2050.
That's right.
That this is a documentation, so that even in days to come, at least let the record stand to say those brothers was trying to represent a certain perspective and a certain ideological stance, and that those generations to come won't say, God damn it, those niggas sold us out.
Exactly.
We go on record to say that we're trying to push this information. We might be a minority within a minority within a minority, but let the record stand.
But you also said that if you think of when you became Muslim from the 90s, perhaps there's been some type of conspiracy to ensure that our rise is muted.
The videotape that I posted of what was taking place in Dick Shepherd's school, the type of conversation.
That's in London. For those people who don't know
England. In London, England. You're talking about in the what? The possibly late 80s, definitely early 90s.
Yes.
And there's certain.
There was an Afrocentricity.
But there was an Afrocentric consciousness.
Yeah, there was. Yeah. Islam was germinating.
Malcolm X, and stuff like this. And Islam was seen at that time as a spiritual path, but also a revolutionary path
for black nationalism.
Yes. To address some of the challenges.
Yes.
That occur in what was occurring at that time in Black Britain, and I was of the opinion that it's clear that there were agents sent in to
speak on that.
Let's say neutralize that revolutionary zeal,
same as the pamphlet
and to orchestrate.
Would you say to prevent the rise of a not a messiah as such, but a mentality? J. Hoover said, "I want to prevent the rise of a black messiah." So Malcolm X was this man. So we got to neutralize the pamphlets, right? Or neutralize the black movement, decapitate.
So there wasn't.
Do you think there was a similar thing with the same people?
I think so.
Same people that are putting on these so-called meetings at SOAS and that, and talking about new Muslims and helping us. Do you think there's some kind of evidence, tentative as it may be, that they're the same source of the people that are pretending to help, but at the same time, since 92, 93, have been the very ones destroying that rise and that connection, that consciousness, to keep us passive and...
Let me be clear. I'm saying, I personally think by looking at the evidence, the landscape, and looking
at empirical evidence, historical evidence now.
I'm looking at, and also anecdotally, my experience and inferences that I'm drawing from what I've seen around me. I'm not naming a particular individual here, there, or here, because I think there's been a few.
Yes.
But what
it's bigger than any individual.
But what I'm trying to say that, in my humble opinion, it couldn't have happened accidentally. It couldn't have happened accidentally that systematically the black consciousness or the revolutionary spirit. I think I did a chat show once, and one of my guests said it's funny because before we had the correct understanding of Islam, whether Sunni or Shia or Sufism or whatever, but the orthodox kind of perspectives, and when people were more Ansar Allah and people were Nation of Islam, there was more of a consciousness. But it was only when the African Caribbean brothers and sisters learned Orthodox Islam,
so-called,
that the inability to address their own problems and a do-for-self mentality was removed and eradicated. So what does that teach us? It's not Orthodox Islam is a problem, but maybe who you learn it from,
this is so
how
deep.
you learn it.
Because you know the CIA, FBI, when the pamphlets was rising, they put, in the 60s, innit? They put, what's it called again?
You're saying it's
they put
payroll, isn't it?
That's right, they put heroin in the black community to destroy the rise of the pamphlets. Then in the 80s and 90s, they put crack. They were making it in the Los Angeles Police Department. They were making crack. They were shot in it. There's documentary that showed you in New York, places like that. The police was involved in creating the heroin, setting up drug dealing.
So let's take it deeper. We take it deeper. You're talking about America. We know that there's evidence that, quote unquote, no, I can't say quote unquote. They were Yardis. Yardis were brought over. Certain Yardis
were brought over by
the
That's right. Yeah, because we were conscious. The whole Stephen Lawrence thing was kicking off in the 90s. Black people were wearing
So
the African
elements were brought in.
Yeah.
Class H, same thing what happens in America catches it. America catches the golden English.
Yeah,
so the same technique to disrupt the political agenda.
And set up a group like Daesh.
Yeah.
Same game they play. They do it nationally, internationally. So in the black community, they had the so-called black single mothers created all these children running around, latchkey kids. They're running around with guns and violence and killing each other. And they're selling crack and they're selling heroin and they're selling crack and they're pushing Browns and Charlie and the rest of it. But the point is, the police brought these people over the whole Yardie phenomenon from Jamaica, opened up the prisons, brought over live people, put them in the black community, gave them guns
To wreak havoc. Literally license eliminate life.
And then they blamed, and then they put it there, then they blamed the black community for not being able to control these problems. They said with the Muslim community, they sent these people off to Bosnia to fight against the Slavic, where's it again, against Yugoslavia, to fight against the Serbs, right? They sent them off, they trained them all in Pakistan, then they trained them and chilled that the Mujahideen. And then afterwards now, and then now they got this problem where these people are running, and the same happened in Iraq.
Where is guys supposed to go after they finish that
Exactly, that's
that
the So when you got problems in England now, you create a problem. Donald Trump is saying we have to stop Muslims from coming here because they hate us. But I don't know why they hate us. You know why they hate you, Donald? Because you can't keep out of their country. Keep your nose out of the people's business. America, stop going around the world like you're a policeman. You can't stay up a hornet's nest and be surprised you get stung. Why does the bee hate me? When you got your foot in the hornet's nest.
Tickling your toe.
That's why he's stinging you. But these people are dumb. A bit like the people you follow, unfortunately.
I want to go back to something though. You mentioned something key. You mentioned that narcotics was brought in to dumb down, right?
And physical and spiritual narcotics.
But I was about to talk about the spiritual narcotics because I think that there's been a teaching that's been brought amongst, or I could say that the African Caribbean Muslims, Sunni or Shia or Sufi, have bought into whatever their perspective, right? But they've bought into a kind of bought into a paradigm or bought into a narrative of Islam that is a type of a narcotic where you're taking back into history and we're debating about whether this individual was demise or this one radiallahu killed this one radiallahu and stuff.
So before that you're chilling together.
Yeah.
And then someone tells you what? So you want to chop the next man or so you're breaking a minute.
Check this out. So the history is important within a context. Not day after day after day because you're not living in history, you're living right now.
Exactly.
So if those individuals have problems with each other, Allah is a judge. And we can mention it for history's sake and let the records talk the truth. We're not hiding from the facts. But I'm saying day in, day out, when you've got hardcore A-class drugs in your community, or you've got like high levels of mass illiteracy or single parenthood, how do you bypass that to argue with me about this Sahaba and this Sahaba and this one and that? What's Saudi and Iran and Saudi and in your community, you got disproportionate levels of people incarcerated, disproportionate levels of young black boys being expelled from school, and we know from school goes to guns, and in prison. So you got mass warehousing of black males. You got the mental health establishment, which is a handmaiden of oppression in most forced injections in black, African Caribbean people. So there's all these type of, I wouldn't say problems, I'm saying challenges. And I'm saying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that He gives people, He gives people not just solutions, but if you, what does it say? You change and Allah makes a change complete. I can't remember the translation. Seven towards you. You know what I'm trying to say to you? And He doesn't change the condition of a people to change the condition of Himself. So I believe that actually Allah is given us what we need.
Yes, you have it,
Yeah? So Allah has given us, for example, it's raining and He's given us an umbrella, but we're arguing about Sunni and Shia and Salafi and who's your Marid and no, bro, this is bid'ah, right? And we need to open an umbrella. Look, but we're not accessing the information to make
I totally agree with the analysis. That's deep, that's profound, and I hope you guys, brother and sister, you take time to think about what Brother Bilal just said. We had an incident where there was a lady called Simone on a bus stop, and the so-called Simone, what do they call her? The ISIS killer, right? And but I believe Simone, if the people you talked about done their job, so they're arguing over nonsense like the malls when they were in Spain. And the Christians was beating on the door of Grenada, and the people inside they're arguing about, well, kind of Hanifi man, you're Maliki, and is your beard long enough? And there's Ferdinand and Isabella outside the hot doors of the Grenada, coming in to kill all you. All of you getting it, They ain't bothered about you being Hanifi or Maliki. But they're worried about that in Morocco, and that's why they kick the Muslims out of opinion, such a negative opinion? Because you black brothers didn't do the work. You wanted to be on your, we're on the minhaj. That's important to you, isn't it? Yeah. Your community goes to hell around you, but you don't care. Why? Because you've been led astray. You've been brainwashed again. This is the problem. So you don't see Black Lives Matter. You look at Beyonce and think, oh, she's scantily clad, so I'm stuck for a law. But she's done more with that scantily cladness than you do with your whole jalabia on. Because you are irrelevant. You made yourself irrelevant in the community because you're following people that don't like you, that don't look like you,
your own people
that don't
like
want
you. Your own your own tribe don't like you.
That's right. And you're not even involved in helping to rear the community. You're not involved. The youths on the street are looking up to you. If Malcolm was on the edge, they look up to Malcolm because Malcolm was able to marry his culture with his Islam.
Yeah.
I was just saying, we're not saying that. I think if you're white, yellow, whatever colour you are, you should have a ground in your culture as well as the deen. That's why these white brothers are jumping, for example, run to Daesh. Because they're told that you're Western, ain't you? And everything evil is the West. So these white brothers, when they go out to these places, they want to be more hard body to show that, you know what I mean, I'm better than them man. Because I've given up my whiteness, because I'm now just this thing, this transparent being with no culture. You're an idiot. You're a lunatic. You're nuts. Right? We ain't following you no more. Them days is over. Sorry to say it. They're done. The nails been hurt in the coffin. Inside the coffin's gonna get out in it. Let me out. Let me. But we ain't letting you out. You're staying in there. You're genie in the bottle. You ain't coming out of that bottle. You failed us. We've come knocking on your door since the 90s. And you don't want us to be with you. We can't integrate with you. We can't marry amongst you. You don't want to give us no work, no jobs or none. You talk about your little meetings. Yeah, the Reavers need work and the Reavers need that. But you just talk. You got no love for us. Because you don't even love yourself. Because you fight over Sunni and Shia and nonsense. So if you're finished, it's done. Over. Fin.
So before we close out, I want to say, before I hand it over to you, bro, I want to say, it's
get that documentary.
Yeah, check the documentary out. As you can see, it's more than skin deep, and Black Lives Matter.
Amen to that. Or amen ra. Or amen. So for me,
till next time. Salam alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa
barakatuh. Subscribe. Is it below?
I think it's about there.
Subscribe to Islamic Action TV. Spread the word about Islamic Action TV. And Islamic Action TV, and about the counselling as well. We got to look at more stuff on the counselling.
We're going to go into psychology. We're going to go into psychology.
Coming with it
Watch
all.
this space. Watch this
and
space.
The film breakdown, brother.
Watch this space.
The film breakdown. All praise due to Allah. So until then, stay safe. And assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa ta'ala.
Wa barakatuh.
From me, Mohammed Solomon. And